I fear not the dark itself, but what may lurk within it. Welcome to Lurk, bringing you creepy, strange, and bone-chilling stories, with your host, Jamie Jackson.
Hey lurkers, welcome to this week's episode. Does anybody else feel like there's some wonky energy in the air? I don't know if it's some leftover crap from the eclipse, or if it's the fact that Mercury is in retrograde, or all of the above, but it's been one heck of a few weeks around here. But you're not interested in my thoughts on wonky energy or the crazy hectic weeks that have been going on. You're here for the episode. This week we are looking at a strange disappearance. I can't say that it's in with the missing 411 cases because it happened long before missing 411 was a thing. It happened before state parks and national parks, and heck, before the United States was a thing. This disappearance takes place in 1763 and is said to be the greatest mystery that ever occurred in Great Britain. Just a quick note that this episode might be a little bit shorter just because of the available information from 1763. I don't know if you realize, but there was no internet back then. So, our missing person is named Owen Parfitt, and he disappeared 261 years ago. Owen Parfitt lived in the English village of Shepton Mallet in Somerset County, England. The town name derives from Old English meaning sheep farm, and Mallet comes from the last name of the Mallet family. So basically it's the Mallet sheep farm. The Domesday Book of 1086 recorded a settlement there. The history of the town goes back all the way to prehistoric times. Neolithic artifacts were discovered there along with burials. Basically, it has a very long and old history as a town. And in 1763, there were about 3,000 to 4,000 people living there. And Owen Parfitt lived there. In his youth, Owen Parfitt was called Wild Boy by others in the village and was referred to as sometimes violent. It was said that he was neither a very good man nor was he a very bad man, but he was said to have a violent temper. As a youth, he allegedly grew up learning the trade of tailor at the instruction of his father. I say allegedly because it's hard to find specific details regarding it. It's said that he was actually quite good at sewing. But apparently living the life of a tailor wasn't something that Owen desired. He wanted adventure, and at 14 years old, he ran away to sea. There is mention that he was shanghaied into service. This means that he was forced to serve on a ship. Basically, people would be kidnapped in some form. Many times, people would be drunk, and then they'd wake up on board a ship out at sea. The information I found mentioned Owen was shanghaied by pirates. However, I learned that most pirate ships didn't need to resort to forcing people to serve. Many people working on pirate ships had good food, good drink, and excellent pay, which was not the case on merchant marine ships. So it wasn't the pirates kidnapping, but the merchants. However he found himself on the sea, that is supposedly where he went. He was gone for many years, and finally returned home to Shepton Mallet. And I mean many years counted in decades. His parents were long dead, and no one in town recognized him except for his older sister Mary. Upon his return, he began telling wild tales of his adventures. He said that he was in many war battles with pirates. Some stories say he served on pirate ships. He claimed to have seen men forced to walk the plank and spent time in America and Africa. that last part actually has some truth. Owen was able to do some tricks that no one in the area had ever seen before. They said he was able to be in two places at the same time, could make a coin disappear by snapping his fingers, and could talk in Chinese besides singing in the African tongue. Definitely suspicious. Making a coin disappear isn't that miraculous. Simple sleight of hand manages that trick. I can make a coin disappear and find it in my grandson's ear or his nose. Sometimes his butt. It's great fun. But he's 4, so it's not like I'm managing David Copperfield type magic. I won't be disappearing the Statue of Liberty anytime soon. If you don't know who or what I'm talking about, I don't want to hear about it. Just go look it up. I did look to see if there was some trick with making yourself be in two places at once, because that seemed like something odd to be happening in the 1700s. What I found was information on something called bilocation. According to Wikipedia, bilocation, or sometimes multi-location, is an alleged psychic or miraculous ability wherein an individual or an object is located or appears to be located in two distinct places at the same time. Reports of bilocation phenomena have been made in a wide variety of historical and religious contexts, ranging from ancient Greek legends and Christian traditions to modern occultism. We are going to go on a tangent here, so bear with me. The ancient Greek philosopher Pythagoras was said to have been capable of bilocation. According to writings, almost unanimous is the report that on one and the same day he was present at Metapontum in Italy and at Tauromenium in Sicily, in each place conversing with his friends, though the places are separated by many miles, both at sea and land, demanding many days' journey. A similar story is told of Apollonius of Tyana, who was supposedly present simultaneously in Smyrna and Ephesus. The concept of bilocation has been linked with shamanism, theosophy, Islam, especially Sufism, and Jewish mysticism. In the 17th century, people accused of witchcraft were often reported to appear to their victims in visions, even if they were known to be elsewhere at the time. The trials at Bury St. Edmunds and Salem included this spectral evidence against defendants. The phenomenon was described in the book The Discovery of Witches. Quantum physics suggests that it is possible to be in two places at the same time, but we aren't going to get into quantum physics. I thought it was interesting that there were connections in ancient religions and occultism in regards to this particular trick that Owen Parfitt was able to do. Especially because villagers said that Owen boasted of having associated with necromancers and magicians. Owen Parfitt's knowledge of other languages or songs in another language really aren't that shocking. It was known that he did spend some time abroad, and who knows who else was on the ship with him, assuming he was on a ship. Owen reportedly had knowledge of some hidden treasure as well. He once told a man that he knew of an island where you can dig up diamonds by the spadeful. The diamonds were said to be bigger than duck eggs, but most people didn't believe his stories that also included a lot of wild women. Those stories probably were pretty true, though. Basically, the truth, as far as I could find, was that he left home at 14 and joined the army and served in Africa. And when he received his discharge from the military, he returned home to Shepton Mallet. After his return home, Owen Parfitt lived with his sister Mary. In the village, Mary was well known and well respected. Her cottage was located on a turnpike road, surrounded by other houses near the center of town. As I mentioned, she was older than Owen, about 15 years older at least. Owen pursued a career as a tailor, And oddly, though it was said he didn't seek out or encourage any work orders, he was never short on cash. He was visited from time to time by rough-looking sailors who interviewed him at his sister's home and then immediately left. He grew to be riddled with rheumatism and hobbled around with a cane, though he was still mentally sharp. One day, he stumbled and fell and became unable to walk. Many of the descriptions point to Owen having suffered a stroke. He became a complete cripple that was unable to speak or respond to people. He continued to live with his sister Mary, who at about the age of 80 or more became his caretaker. They also had help from a neighbor named Susanna Snook, who was about the age of 25. On days when the weather was nice, Susanna and Mary would take Owen outside to sit on the porch. People in the village would wave to Owen, even though it was said he didn't have the ability to speak or acknowledge them. In June of 1763, Owen was now about the age of 70 and paralyzed. The weather was sunny, and his sister Mary and their neighbor Susanna carried Owen out to sit outside on a chair just outside the front door of the cottage. They sat him in his chair with an old green coat draped over his shoulders, and he was wearing his nightshirt. More like a nightgown, really. He wasn't like naked from the waist down. He was wearing a nightgown. Susanna Snook returned to her home, and Mary began her routine chores. When Owen was outside, she would take the time to clean the house and his room, putting clean sheets on the bed. While she worked, she talked to Owen, and when going upstairs to his room, she was still in earshot of the porch where Owen was seated. About 15 minutes later, she goes back outside to check on Owen and finds that he's gone. Only the chair and the old green coat remained. She looked around quickly and sounded the alarm between 6 and 7 p.m. There was a storm rolling in, and as the search began, it started thundering, lightning, and rained on the searchers. Every pond, ditch, well, and woods for miles were searched, but no sign of Owen was ever found. At the time of his disappearance, both his sister and Susanna Snook were within earshot and would have heard noise coming from the porch, but they heard nothing. There were also many people outside in the village near the cottage, as they were out harvesting hay in the fields. There were no strangers noticed in the town, no noises or signs of a struggle. And Owen was completely 100% unable to move on his own. So what happened to Owen Parfitt back in 1763? I imagine everyone's first thought is that the sister did something for financial gain. However, Mary only received an amount of money from the parish for Owen's upkeep, and that was her only source of income. And it was very little money. And if something happened to Owen, that money is going to stop. So, for Owen to disappear, that means Mary doesn't have any income. Also, Mary was at least 80 years old, if not older at the time, and was pretty feeble herself. Owen was said to be stout, weighing in at 15 stone, which is equivalent to about 210 pounds. I know I can't move that much weight, certainly in a short time, and without being seen. Another theory was that it had to do with the possible hidden treasure that Owen always bragged about. Someone suggested spontaneous combustion as a possible explanation, meaning he basically burned up mysteriously. But again, I would imagine there would be some type of evidence that that happened. Locals thought perhaps witchcraft was involved. Apparently, the area around the village was rumored to be a hotbed of witchcraft. The common opinion was that the devil himself came and took Owen Parfitt away. Either way, many believe he disappeared through supernatural means. Then, in 1813, a young farmer by the name of Thomas Strode unearthed a skeleton while gardening. The bones were in perfect condition and located only about 150 yards from where the Parfitt cottage was located. It was also described that the bones appeared to have been thrown into the grave in a hasty manner. Everyone assumed that this was the body of Owen Parfitt, and the mystery had ended. But upon further examination, the body was determined to be that of a young woman. So now there's another mystery, as the identity of the woman has never been uncovered. So again, what happened to Owen Parfitt? I've tried to think through possible scenarios, and I pretty much discount them all. There's no way he could have walked off on his own. He was incapable of walking. His sister did not have the physical strength to do anything with him, being older and feeble as well. Susanna Snook is a possibility, though what was her motive? She knew that there was no large sum of money, and was in her own home at the time. There were many people in the fields and outside, as it was a nice day, and as I mentioned, the hay harvest was happening. Someone would have seen or heard something. Which leaves paranormal explanations. I'm not sure if it was witches, the devil, or aliens. Either way, it is still a strange mystery. One that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle of Sherlock Holmes fame said, "It forms one of the most piquant mysteries which ever came before the British public." Piquant means pleasantly stimulating or exciting to the mind, because I know I had to look that up. Maybe it was the aliens from Cocoon that came and got him. If you know, you know. Good movie, by the way. That's going to do it for this episode of Lurk. Remember to mark your calendars for our upcoming festival attendance. June 8th at the Wytheville UFO Festival in Wytheville, Virginia, and June 15th at the Sasquatch Saturday in Sykesville, Maryland. You can find links to those in the show notes. If you're in either of those areas, make sure you stop by and say hello. As always, you can find Lurk wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts, or at lurkpodcast.com. On the website, you can find all of our episodes, along with links to our social media. If you like what you hear, tell your friends and consider giving us a 5-star review. And until next time, keep lurking.